up, everybody? We are back. JG, my co-host, we are back with Get Sticky Fantasy Breakdown, guys. Welcome, everybody. Glad to see you guys here. Some of you guys might be sleeping. I don't know. Hopefully you're not, but we are back. We have a breakdown. The list is going to go sleepers, stardom. JG's going to have his dailies. We're going to have injuries. We got matchups to talk about. So we got a lot to get into, and we're going to get into it right now. So I'm going to start off with the sleepers. This is kind of interesting to me, this sleeper. They called for Josh Kelly from the Chargers to be a sleeper, which is kind of weird to me. I don't know what if they're going to go running back by committee out there now, but that one definitely got to me.
Yeah, I think the key there is the goal line touches. I think Kelly's a little bit more of a bruiser than Eckler.
Yeah, I was actually surprised by it. So, and this one doesn't surprise me. The next one up with Zach Moss. This doesn't surprise me. I've been calling for him since week one. I think he's just gonna get the touches down inside the red zone, and I think he's gonna be the guy. I mean, he's
absolutely great matchup too. There,
I think he actually outscored Devin Singletary last week.
Yep, he did indeed. Looked fantastic.
And they're calling for this guy. This guy, I hope he rebounds because he blew it last week. DeAndre Swift. They're calling for as a sleeper. I mean, I see it. He has big play capabilities. He has everything to do it. But I mean, does he get all the touches now that AP has such a solid week last week?
Yeah, that's tough too, because I really think that Adrian Peterson's going to look fantastic again. I mean, he looked good last week. I think the Green Bay defense really struggles against the run, but yeah, I think Swift could easily do well here, especially because, I mean, you look at last week. If he just caught that touchdown in the end zone, that's a decent day for Swift.
I can't believe he dropped that ball. That ball, you
you
couldn't have been more open. You know what I mean? You couldn't have been more open at that time and just dropped it. No one near him. I hope he rebounds. I don't like to see young kids fail that, but I mean, It was his first week on the big stage, so
yeah, I don't want to see that get in his head.
Hopefully the clutchness comes back in it. And then they're calling for Mike Williams from the Chargers. This one is kind of interesting because they got Allen out there. Allen's usually the big guy out there, but we'll see what Tyron does with him. I'm not too sure. Like a couple of these.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one because you got the Kansas City defense who played pretty well the first week for sure.
Yeah, they're stellar.
I think that this is an interesting choice, especially because I mean, you look at this offense. I mean, you got Tyrod Taylor out here trying to sling the rock as much as possible. We're gonna working out. See that working out.
This is a guy you were big on last week. They're calling as a sleeper. I don't know why he's a sleeper. I'd say he's more of a stardom.
Mm-hmm.
Logan Thomas from the Washington football team.
Yeah, I like it. I called my shot on that one last week, and I think that definitely between the matchup and the fact that you need a red zone target. I don't think they have a lot of really great red zone guys in terms of the size, and I think you definitely see Logan Thomas. I'm calling it. He's getting a touchdown today again. He's getting one.
I actually thought the Washington football team was going to go into like a spurt trade for Allen Robinson. Like the talk was out there that he wanted to be traded and everything like that.
That would have been a nice move.
I was like, hopefully they go grab him because I mean that would have gave them a nice 1-2 punch with having Cam Sims up, but I don't know if Cam Sims is playing this week because I think they get 2 times that they can bring him up without having to drop somebody off the roster. So now they bring him up again. Yeah. They bring him up again. They have to drop somebody.
Ooh,
so that'll be interesting.
And then I do like that. If they were able to get Allen, that'd be a fantastic move because then you knock Terry down one, give him better matchups. That'd be sweet.
And then they're calling for Mr. Traquan Smith for the Saints, which I like this because I like this before the fact that he's not getting all the attention. They still give all the attention to Michael Thomas. But I think Traquan's I think he's stated to explode. The way he looked last week, I just think he's gonna take off here very directly. And
yeah, definitely. And this is an interesting one too, because I'm interested to see how the depth chart looks here, because of course Mike Thomas likely doubtful with that ankle injury. I'm really interested to see who draws the number 1. And if it's Traquan, you can get a lot of targets. I mean, I think real quick, another guy I really like this week is I'm sure we'll get into him later, but Jared Cook, man, he's going to get so many targets now that they don't have Mike Thomas out there.
And this is my personal sleeper, just because of the way the Washington football team used him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling Peyton Barber again.
Yep.
Is they used him, and it was a surprise to me that they used him the way they used him down inside the red zone and whatnot. He seemed to run a lot better than Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, he looked really good, and the fact that I mean, it's big when you're in fantasy, you're looking for the red zone touches, and the fact that he got almost all of them, and most of his production did come off those 2 touchdowns, mind you, but I think that with that matchup against Arizona, a lot of scoring is going to happen. I think that's a fantastic call.
I mean, it's still, if you look at it, it's 14 points basically. It's 7 points a touch or 6 points, whatever it is, depending on what league you play in. But 2 touchdowns. I mean, he was 2 for 2. So then getting out of the, do you have any more sleepers you want to add to it that you feel anybody is?
I think the only one that maybe people might not really have an eye on here is Russell Gage from Atlanta. He had a fantastic day, 20 to 24 fantasy points, depending on your format. He got a ton of targets. You're looking at a good matchup with Dallas here. Don't love their defense at all in the secondary. I think Russell Gage sees a lot of looks today, and he has a really, really high upside too.
Guys, go. So we're going to get into the start and sit 'em. You're going to love the first one. The first one is Mr. Cam Newton himself. Yeah, I think
love that.
I think he surprised. I think he came out and surprised a lot of people in New England last week.
Oh, undoubtedly.
I was surprised myself because I was watching. I'm like, all right, maybe he Cam's back. Does Cam stay solid and great?
I mean, yeah, I was super nervous to see him out there, and
he looked 100%, man. He looked healthy. He looked like the old Cam. He was making his reads. He was running the ball. I think his first touchdown was actually a run, if I'm correct. I might be wrong.
Yep. And that's something that I think is really an X factor, especially when you look at quarterbacks in fantasy. You want the possibility of passing and rushing touchdowns. And something that's really big here is the Patriots weren't just letting Cam scramble. They had a lot of designed runs where he gets the snap and he's instantly looking to run, get that play action going. And he had the record for most rushing yards for a Patriots quarterback in his first game.
I don't think that was too hard to get, though.
7-5, mind you. Yeah, you mean Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe, and Steve Grogan are the burners that we're expecting. So I think this is definitely a game. We see a lot of scoring. Seahawks defense ain't great again, and I think this is going to be a really good game. Really fun Sunday night matchup. A little Super Bowl rematch here. Excited to see what happens with it.
Now you have Josh Allen versus Miami as a start. So this one, I think, plays to Josh Allen. He looked very good, especially hitting John Brown the way he was. I got surprised by John Brown. I actually passed up on him in our fantasy league. He was there. I was like, and I'm kicking myself in the butt now. So
yeah.
Then you have, again, this is another one you'll like. They have Tom Brady. You got Tom Brady going versus the Panthers. Tom didn't look so great. He didn't look so great last week.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just because he wasn't ready for game speed or what it was, but he looked a little uncomfortable coming out.
Yeah, I like to think it was a little bit of everything. I think it's a combination of new team, new offense, pretty tough matchup too. I mean, that Saints defense plays really well, especially at home, especially in their own division. I think that Brady's going to look a little bit better today. I am a little bit worried about not having Golladay, but I think Scotty Miller's a really good number 2 option behind Evans, and I think Justin Watson should have he might have a couple touches here today. I mean, that's a guy that's maybe potentially a sleeper here with the way these guys are getting ruled out.
Yeah, I mean, and then this one, getting into the sits, this one really surprised me. Jared Goff versus the Eagles. With the Eagles beat up the way they are, offense and defense. This one surprised me. I thought Goff would have been easily a start here with that defense being beat up the way it is.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the big thing there is that one, in the red zone, they're looking to run. Malcolm Brown, I think he's a guy that you gotta have in your lineup if he's on your team today. They're going to look to give the ball to him a lot at the red zone, and I think that Goff's just not going to end up throwing a ton in the red zone here. They do have a really good matchup too, though. So I don't think I could comfortably sit Goff unless I had someone I really felt good about, but I could definitely see why he might not be the top of the list here.
Yeah, I was just very surprised by it because I was like sitting here, I was watching, unless the Eagles have people coming back, and I just didn't catch that yet. But
Yeah, because the Eagles looked pretty bad last week. Like that was
well,
a tough game for them.
they started off so hot. Like I thought
Yeah.
Washington was gonna get washed out. They started off hot, and then Washington, whatever I think they drunk that Space Jam special juice stuff, and then
Right,
next thing you
right.
know, they came out and they were firing all cylinders and taking
Yeah.
it. And then-
Literally though.
so then we're gonna go to Teddy Bridgewater versus the Bucks. Not like I'm not completely sold on that. I think just the way the games went with the Bucks and the Saints last week, it was just back and forth, up and down. Like, well, you thought one was gonna get hot, then next thing you know was gonna get going, and it just didn't. It was just one of those
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, I think that the key here is that the Bucks defense surprisingly did really well, limiting Drew Brees to only 160 passing yards. Now they got gouged on the ground, so I mean you would start McCaffrey anyways, but he's definitely going to be in a good spot this
Yeah,
week.
for
And I
sure.
do think that what we saw out of Teddy Bridgewater last week, that could be just an aberration here. That could be a one-off thing because he looked good, but again, that was an easy matchup for him for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. So that one, I rocked the boat with that one. I mean, if you don't have a pure like go to, yo, J Dub, thank you for coming in with that big raid, buddy. Appreciate
Hey,
you.
Coffee
So
and trees, boys.
so with that going on, like I said, I'm on the fence with this one because he had an easy matchup. Bucks defense was pretty good last week. You hold one of the top guys in the league down to, like you said, 160 yards.
Yep.
I'm on the fence with it. Like I said, if
Yeah, it's
you
tough.
don't have a pure like number one starter, Teddy, I'd start Teddy.
Yeah, I could probably find a good 5 to 10 guys I probably wouldn't start over Bridgewater, but I do think that when you look at a guy that did well last week,
Yeah.
I do think out of the guys who did well last week, he's definitely someone that I would consider moving on from there.
And then our next sit. This one's kind of interesting, but the Steelers defense did look pretty good last week for some of it. Drew Lock. This one, I mean, Denver's offense didn't really get clicking, and I think this is we talked about this last week a little bit. Is that Drew Lock is one of those rookie guys coming in, didn't get any game time play, so the speed may be a little bit different. So it might could throw off a little bit of his chemistry he might have built in practice and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So this one, I think Drew Lock becomes one of those guys as the year goes on. He will be worth a start eventually, but
Absolutely.
I agree here that he's still wet under the ears until he gets used to that speed of how guys are going to keep coming in as he plays people, and we know the Steelers are going to blitz, so he's going to be over some heavy pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think not having Cortland Sutton is really big. I mean, that guy just opens up the defense so much. It knocks guys down in terms of target. You got Jerry Jeudy would have a better matchup. I mean, Noah Fant is pretty much the only guy in this offense right now I'd really consider going after.
Yeah, that's the tight
Philip
end.
Lindsay out today. So no Philip Lindsay means that's looking at Royce Freeman and Melvin Gordon, who Melvin Gordon did relatively well last week. I think that that's a potential for maybe doing well. But again, I think that this is just a really, really tough matchup for them. I think the Steelers defense is going to show up today.
Sure. Then we get into the running backs. You got we've been high on him since last week. Jonathan Taylor. You got Mac Brown out. This guy's gonna, I think he's gonna start taking touches. I forget the backup over there.
Nyheim Hines there.
Yeah, Hines. So with Hines there, I mean Hines got, I think they kind of battled it out last week, but
yeah,
I think the Colts are really looking for Taylor to take over, and he's gonna have a shot. And I'm telling you guys, this guy's gonna be special. I think he's really gonna be special. He stays healthy. He's going to be something special. If you guys can grab this guy, go grab him. I don't think he's probably available in most leagues, but if he's sitting there, go scoop him. Guy's going to have a big day. I think he's going to have a big day.
Something interesting here is you look at Hines. He had a great day, of course, because he got those touchdowns. But touchdowns with a receiving back like Hines, that could easily go to Taylor. And if you look at it, Taylor had 6 targets, averaged 11.2 yards per catch, while Hines had just 5.6. So you look at those numbers alone, and really outside those touchdowns, Taylor was the better back. So I think that
and then he's
undoubtedly, I
playing.
think it's Taylor's side.
And he's also the note on that. He's also playing the Vikings defense. The Vikings defense got depleted this. Depleted this off season. So I mean, they've lost.
That's a beat up, banged up, losing pieces left and right. That's going to be a tough.
I think they actually got beat up pretty bad with some injuries this past week too. I think they have a couple guys out. So he's definitely he's a superstar. If you guys can get Jonathan Taylor, pick him up. And then they got the guy that I hate that my team let go, AP versus Green Bay. Green Bay is not great versus the run. So this is another big one. I think AP has a day. You'll have, and then you have Swift coming out of the backfield on screens and different catches. Hopefully he can catch the ball this week. So, I mean, I'm gonna throw my shots at him because he dropped game winner, wide open. Gotta clutch up, young man. You gotta clutch up.
And something interesting, he actually led all rushers with 5 rushes of 10 yards or more.
Dude,
so I mean,
he was
the
tanking.
fact that he's giving you that kind of production. You look at the fact that the Packers in the past, he's played really well against them. Going back to his days with the Vikings, I love this matchup. I think he's probably going to get a good red zone touch or two for sure. I'm looking at 2 touchdowns, maybe 100+ yards. I think it's a really good matchup, really good day for AP.
Yeah, and then this one, James Robinson versus the Titans.
Oh, danger zone play right here.
So this one was big because he's coming from the Jaguars. He's a running back for the Jaguars. We know they've moved on from their big stuff that they had going on. Not so many big players down there now. So I think this is one of those things where they're searching for that guy, and I don't know. I'm not sold on this one.
Yeah, I'm not sold on. I think this is a good potential high upside sleeper pick, but I mean, I think this is a case where you look at their depth chart, and we mentioned it last week. I like Chris Thompson a lot, but I don't think he's going to be like a go-to guy when you're a team like the Jaguars, who more or less they're looking to rebuild, find out what they got from the young guys. James Robinson actually looked pretty good week 1, a little over 10 fantasy points, and I do like this matchup. He's facing the Titans, who are a good defense, but I think the Jaguars are going to be behind a lot. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot. James Robinson can catch the ball, so I think this is a decent look for him here.
Might be a little outlet.
He played 66% of the snaps, and that's a good number right there.
That's a big number.
If you can get above 2/3 snaps for a guy, he's probably going to be a start most times.
Yeah, and then we have the Sidham. This one actually really surprised me. I don't know if he might be injured. I didn't get to look over the injury list, but Joe Mixon versus the Browns. This really surprised me. I don't know if you've heard anything, because I know you get into the injuries during. I didn't get a chance to check because I was doing this side of it. But him versus the Browns look like doo-doo. They look brown. You know what I mean? So, I mean, they didn't. I mean, their offense just couldn't click. I mean, you got, like we talked about last week, you got your guy, a quarterback, looking rusty, looking. We said it. Baker's just not the guy. Like I think it's time for them to either decide, like, hey, like, are we keeping this guy or getting him out of here?
Yeah,
because you don't know who you're getting, man, and that's what you got last week. Like he had good spots, and then he just fails, man. Like
I wouldn't have touched him for sure. I think Thursday night's a sketchy spot. I think despite that being a bad match, I mean, we saw it was a 30-35 game there. I think Mixon right now, it's just a case of Gio Bernard's getting more touches for some reason. They're not using him on like 3rd downs in the 2-minute drills. They're not using Mixon. I don't know what's going on with the Bengals right now.
That one really surprised me when I seen that. I was like, man, versus the Browns, I was like, he's so fast. Like, you would think he'd be the guy. And then
I don't think he ended up having a great day either. I mean, he didn't. He lost the goal line touches to Bernard there. It was a tough day for him, man. Really tough.
And then we got Cam Akers versus the Eagles. Like I said, this one's getting one of those things is that you have, I want to say it's Malcolm Brown, the guy over in the Rams organization.
Little bowling ball there.
This guy is I think he's just gonna suck it up. He's just gonna take over that backfield.
Yeah, I would
And
be shocked if week 17 Cam Akers is not starting over these guys. But I think right now, you look at Malcolm Brown, who's playing really well. He's running routes. He's doing everything right now. And the fact that he gets those red zone touches really big, multiple touchdowns. So I don't like Cam Akers. I like Malcolm Brown a lot, though. I think that he's going to be the guy to go for at least the next couple weeks. I like to wait and see on some of these guys, especially when you look at rookies. You never know what you're getting out of them. I think he has a lot of talent, but I definitely think that right now we got to go Malcolm Brown.
yeah, and I mean, I see the only thing I really see Cam really getting right here is maybe some screens and stuff like that. Might get a few touches, but you're high on Malcolm. Um, he's one of those guys is going to be maybe a flex at most,
Yeah,
unless you have somebody that got hurt last week and that you just need a plug. He's gonna be a plug player.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I wouldn't expect probably more than 6 points unless he gets a weird breakout, like he gets a big run or gets a
Yeah,
big
the
catch
whole, the
out the
whole, the
backfield.
whole hot hand approach, which we talk about a lot here, is sometimes you might have in your head who you're going to start, but when a guy's hot, you got to roll with him. You
Yeah,
just got
definitely ride it. And then this is my personal sit. Every running back from the 49ers.
to.
Kyle
I feel it.
Shanahan is he's all over the place. Like I hate it that I even picked the 49ers running back in the league now because I don't know who he's running, man. Like I watched last week and I'm like, okay, well maybe we're gonna get some touches here, and no, like it was so all over the place. My mind was blown. So
Yeah, it's tough there because I coined it earlier, Shanahanigans, the shenanigans of Kyle Shanahan. You never know what he wants to do. He deploys random guys in random roles. I think that Tevin Coleman easily could take over this job. Mostert is fantastic
I would
player.
love for
I
him to
think
take
that
over this job.
right. I think that if you have to start one of them, let's say for some reason you got Mostert and Tevin Coleman, I think just based off last week, you got to go Mostert there. But I mean, it's a toss up. I could easily
Yeah.
see Coleman getting the job back. I think a big X factor here is Mostert played a lot more because Coleman's got the issue with a sickle cell, I believe, or something of the sort. So not being able to play with the terrible conditions that were in California last week with all the wildfires, I think that's tough. I think that's tough.
Yeah.
I think that it's tough to know until you know. In the first couple weeks with the Kyle Shanahan offense, you don't know what you're doing.
So
And
getting
real
it,
quick, Tarnation, if I was you, I would go probably Malcolm Brown. I think that's a little safer. I think Ronald Jones looked good last week,
yeah,
but
you
I
got to go
think that
Brown.
Leonard Fournette looms large in that backfield.
Yeah,
I
he's just
don't
waiting for the
like
shot.
I don't trust a single player in the Bucks offense because they are so loaded, they are so stacked. It could be any guy at any given time.
Yeah, it's wild down there. Like I'm definitely going with what's going on. So we have for the receivers. This is a given. Like
Yeah.
this guy's given to go off. Allen Robinson versus the Giants, but the Giants defense is ass.
So bad. So bad.
It's so bad. Like I was. Hopefully he comes out. They say that there's nothing going on where he wants to be traded and all that stuff. Who knows? Everybody likes to hide things in the NFL, but
Yeah.
Allen Robinson must play, must start.
Great matchup, high volume target.
He should.
Gonna probably be a shootout. And then the big thing, of course, we mentioned Allen Robinson wants that contract, wants to get paid. They're gonna use him.
They also
They're gonna
had
get
Mr.
those-
Bisky as a sleeper today, guys. He was a sleeper. I don't believe
like
he's a
that.
sleeper, but he is going against the Giants, so he could easily be. If
Yeah,
you
I
get the
think
right Mr. Trubisky, you may have a good day.
yeah, I
And
think a
then
Mitch Trubisky, Allen Robinson stack might be a money move today for fantasy.
Then I talked about this earlier, Mr. John Brown versus Miami. John's gonna have another big day, I believe here.
Absolutely.
Even as much as they've revamped that defense down in Miami, they still seem to struggle. I don't know if it's just if it's the right coaching or if it's the no game speed stuff coming back to be involved. And I think John looked like he was mid season for him last week.
He looked great. He looked really good, and you can't ignore the fact that Josh Allen's played with this guy for so long. They have great chemistry together. He knows John Brown's going to be open deep downfield, and Josh Allen, big fan of him today. Big fan of this matchup. Big fan of John Brown.
Cooper Kupp versus the Eagles. I'm big on this, and this is why I didn't understand why we have why we had Goff as a sit 'em, because they're calling for Cup to go off. So Cup goes off, so does Goff.
Likely, especially because
so,
Cup's a guy who, I
so
mean, in PPR format he's good, but I mean he's a guy who
I
loves
think he really goes off because that like I said, the Eagles are banged up, they're hurt. I just don't see it coming back and going the right direction there for the Eagles today.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go into Sidham's with this one's big because this guy's been he's a killer. We're actually gonna sit Tyreek Hill today versus the Chargers.
I feel that though. I mean, you look at the past here. He didn't have 200 against them in his only start versus Los Angeles. Have held him to fewer than 11 fantasy points in his last matchup. So like this is one where I do think it's a case where this offense is so loaded. I think Tyreek Hill is a guy you really focus on, and I do think that the Chargers have good corners. I think that's something that I mean between I really like Desmond King, really high on him. So I think this is going to be a good matchup for a lot of the guys there, like Sammy Watkins. I think he's got a good shot at popping off a little bit, maybe a Demarcus Robinson. But I think that the number one guy here, Tyreek Hill, I think they're going to really focus on him.
Yeah, I mean it's good. It's gonna be interesting. It's just he's just such a dynamic player, and he just makes things happen. Like and it's quick with him. He's so fast, so it's so quick.
That's why it's tough. Like, I mean, chances are you can't sit this guy because of where you probably drafted him. And this is a case where he could catch one ball and he could have a 90-yard touchdown, you know? And the thing with that is...
There's a reason why he's the cheetah.
Yeah, it's just such a boomer bust play. I feel that, though. He's not like a high-volume target guy, but if he can break one, then you're in the money here.
Flex positioning, Deshaun Jackson, Hunter Henry.
Ooh.
Wow. I'm going Hunter. I'm going Hunter 100% just because that offensive line in Philly is so jacked up. They lost even more players last week after Washington ran through them. They were already hurt. They were already down Lane Johnson, and I think they lost one or two big guys. They got a couple rookies in there now, so I believe you go Hunter Henry in a PPR.
Yeah. Plus, I think I'm not sure on this, of course, but I think Deshaun Jackson probably draws Jalen Ramsey.
Easy because you have Jeffers out. Jeffers is out, so they don't have a top receiver. Their top receiver is going to be Deshaun. So.
Jalen's a dog right there. And plus, with PPR, I typically more often than not like a tight end more than an outside threat like Deshaun. If it was standard format, I would maybe consider Deshaun, but I think PPR, I think Hunter Henry is going to bounce back a little bit. Decent matchup there. I think that's it. I think that's a good call going Hunter Henry.
This one's kind of interesting too, but Washington's defense did play well. They got Christian Kirk to sit him.
I feel that
Washington's defense did step up. You had a lot of young guys in the corner, and I think their starting corner is back. So I think they have Fuller back. I didn't see anything.
That's big if Fuller's back because they looked great last week. You had a piece like Fuller.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen anything. I'm not sure. I don't know, like if you have anything on Fuller. But this one's gonna be this. If Kirk sits, I wonder if this gives. I mean, if they're calling for Kirk to be down, does Isabella appear this week?
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens there. I think that this is a case where the Washington defense looked good. We don't love the Cardinals O-line. I think that Kyler really just showed that he's going to stare down Hopkins and it's going to work. So until that stops working, I think that Kirk's going to be a tough start. I think that the Cardinals have a pretty well-rounded offense for the most part. But I think this is just a tough matchup. I think that Hopkins is a good play here. Maybe I think Kyler might do well, but other than that, I don't really trust a lot in that offense yet.
Yeah, I mean, especially, I would imagine if Fuller's back, he draws Hopkins, which is going to be it's going to be a nice matchup out there. So it was kind of like one of those things that was interesting to me is like if Hopkins draws Fuller, doesn't Kirk get more looks? But as you said. Kyler was really heavy in Hopkins last week, so we'll see. This is another big one here. Even though the Bucks defense was good last week, we got DJ Moore as a sit. I mean, this is the Panthers' top wide receiver. This is Teddy's guy. So I mean, it's gonna be one of those things. what Bucks defense shows pretty much. If the Bucks defense from last week, I agree 100%.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really tough to predict a lot of these offenses right now. There's so many moving pieces, but I do think that the Carolina Panthers, it's tough to predict. We mentioned Teddy Bridgewater, a good player, but you don't know what you're getting. I think that the Bucks defense plays well today. I think if anyone, I would maybe go Robbie Anderson. He had a much better week last week. I think that he's a guy who can really get those targets, really come down on the ball. I mean, you look at almost tripling his fantasy production was Robbie Anderson over DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel each. So I think you might want to go Robbie if you got a Panthers wide receiver this week.
And then we get into the tight ends. This one is huge. This one's going to be a big one because like you said, you got Mike Thomas is nursing a little injury. Don't know where he's at right now. Yeah. Jared Cook versus the Raiders. Cook is going to be a monster target, and then you have the receiver. You have the receiver Traquan. Those guys are going to see the targets. That is my big take on that. Is those two see it? Jared's probably going to see more targets than any of them because we know how Brees is with tight ends and the bigger guys, the taller guys. He likes to throw the ball up, and those guys to go get it and make them look good.
Yeah, Jared Cook had a pretty solid week last week too. I mean, he led the. He had more points than Michael Thomas. Of course, Michael Thomas did get injured. But I think that Jared Cook, really good option. Brees loves the tight ends. Really like this matchup as well. So I think that's definitely a borderline no-brainer here. We got to go Jared Cook. That's a fantastic matchup with Las Vegas Raiders, who didn't look great. Mind you, this is going to be Monday Night Football. They're on the road at Raiders. But I really like this matchup. I think Brees, even though he's outdoors, he's going to play well. I think Kamara's going to play well. It's going to be a good game for the Saints.
And then we have Evan Ingram. This one, I'm not sold on this because Daniel Jones is another one of the guys I think needs his touches. He needed some preseason. I don't like this man. I don't like this one, but I mean, it is what it is, I guess.
So what I would say on this one is I think this
because they got the Bears defense. Is the Bears defense back? I mean, or is like Khalil Mack and all those guys back this week? Because I know they had a ton of big guys sitting last week.
Yeah, I don't think everyone's back, but I think a big thing here is that the Bears don't often play well against the tight end. Allowed the 9th most points to tight end since 2019. I think they're betting on Daniel Jones bouncing back a little bit. And while Daniel Jones didn't play great, there are some guys in that offense that really popped. Darius Slayton looked fantastic in PPR format, over 30 points on some places. So Slayton, if you think, I mean, he had 6 catches, 9 targets, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. You take one of those touchdowns, a couple of those targets off, put him on Ingram here. Good matchup. I think that this is a possibly good play, but I think this is a very risky play. Yeah. I wouldn't bet on it, but I think that out of all the tight ends, he could be in the top 10 potentially here.
And then our next guy is Dallas. I don't know how you say his name, but Goddard. You're high on this guy.
Love this one.
Dallas, he did well last week, and I think he's going to start taking touches away. Right here. Yeah. I think he's actually going to start taking touches away as we get into the mid-season. Like it's not even gonna take a long time. I think it's actually gonna be pretty quick when it starts happening. Ertz didn't look very well. Like, I mean, Wentz is gonna throw to the tight ends, but I think the young guy here, Dallas, is gonna get more, start seeing more.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it. I mean, 9 targets for Goddard to 7 for Ertz. Ertz struggled a little bit, only with those 3 catches. He did have a touchdown. But you look at Dallas Goddard, 8 catches off 9 targets, high percentage there, 101 yards. So you get the bonus in some formats for the 100-yard game. And he had that touchdown, got the target in the red zone. I think that the way the Eagles are deploying the 2 tight end set right now, I think you have to start Dallas Goddard undoubtedly. And I would say if I could pick between the 2, I would consider going Goddard because I think Ertz is going to get a lot of the coverage. He's going to get a lot of the attention because he's really one of their only targets. We mentioned Deshaun Jackson. Don't love him this week. But I think Dallas Goddard's the guy to get in that Philadelphia offense. We don't know what's happening with the running back. Good matchup here with the Rams. I like that play a lot.
Yeah, I'm huge on that. I'm not. He's even in my division, so just the way he played, just the way
my tight end of the week here.
Just the way he played last week. You see him, he got open a lot easier. Like he played a great game.
Yeah,
and Ertz struggled. I don't know if contract things or playing with his mind if he's let that get to him, but he just did not look like Zach Ertz of old.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with him. I mean, we mentioned the 3 catches off 7 targets. I mean, mind you, I didn't watch the whole game. Not fully positive on
He
how
looked
those
bad, man.
targets look.
He looked
Yeah,
bad.
it's just tough.
He just
It's
didn't look
tough
like
right
his
now.
typical self. I was like, gee, because there was a play where he dropped. I mean, he was wide open, dropped it dead on. It was a dead drop. Like I was like, oh my god. But then we get into the sits. This one I agree with 100%. Rob Gronkowski versus the Panthers. He didn't get looked at, man. He did. I'm a little mad because I picked him up, but
Right.
Brady did not look at him in the red zone.
Which is bizarre. It's very bizarre. I'm not certain why they didn't even throw to him once in the red zone. He only had 3 targets all day. You look at the chemistry he's had with Brady in the past. I don't know where it went, quite frankly. I think the only thing that's slightly positive this week is, of course, they don't have Godwin. So the trickle effect might help him out a little bit. I like the matchup with Carolina. I would consider Gronk in like a daily, but I am not betting on Rob Gronkowski in a year-long league until I see something out of him. I mean,
100%.
3 targets, 2 catches, 11 yards. He had like a weird screenplay where he just looked like a baby deer trying to walk. Like it was not pretty. I don't see this one going well here. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not.
wait and see.
I'm
Wait and see
100% on this one. It's a sit for me until it starts clicking again. Do we get into Jack Doyle? But Jack Doyle, I believe, has been ruled out now. Was
Yes,
iffy.
Doyle has been ruled out. Yeah.
So this is gonna go to the backup tight end. I'm not too sure. I can't remember the guy's name out there.
So the backup there is Mo Alley Cox. Now, weird name, probably never heard of him, but he has played well before. He had a decent year with Jacoby Brissett. I think that while Rivers didn't go to the tight end a lot, he has shown in history that he does like the tight ends. Of course, you have Antonio Gates, Hunter Henry at the end there. Of course, back in the day, he had a lot of big targets like a Vincent Jackson over there. I think he's going to look towards the big guy. We saw a lot of touches from the running backs last week. It might happen again, of course. We love Jonathan Taylor. Nyheim Hines has a chance to break out again. But I think that a nice sleeper here is that Mo Alley Cox play. I dig that.
Yeah, and then we get into this guy. This is one we both have been high on. Hayden Hurst versus the Cowboys. This is
so much for the Hayden Hurst show.
This is a big sit. Like I thought he was gonna do fantastic, but like their receivers have taken over the show down there. He didn't do very well, but I mean, this is a Cowboys defense, and I think they give up a pretty good chunk. I don't think they give up too much towards tight ends, but I'm not too sure on that.
Yeah, I mean Hayden Hurst 5 targets, which isn't terrible for a tight end, but I think the emergence of Russell Gage, who played fantastic down the stretch last year when Calvin Ridley went down, I think Russell Gage showing up is something that has really just changed that offense. I mean, you look at the red zone now, you're looking at 2 big guys in Ridley and Julio, and then you, of course, got Todd Gurley there. So I think that the whole Hooper idea where it's like, oh, they'll use Hurst in a Hooper role, that is long gone. I think you don't want to drop him, of course, but I'm not touching this guy until we see something out of him. I'm a big guy on wait and see.
I mean, you also look at the Cowboys, how they kept Tyler Higbee pretty locked up last week. So
that's true. That's true. I mean, Higbee's not the best player, but I do think Higbee's a little bit more versatile than Hayden Hurst. So definitely got more speed, better hands. So
all right,
tough matchup.
We're gonna run through the defenses real quick, just give it a little skim, and then we're gonna let JG's gonna get into his daily picks here for like daily guys that do the daily fantasy stuff. Let's see here. We have Kansas City, of course. Their defense played great. They got the Chargers with Tyron out there as quarterback, but this is simple. Like,
yeah, bad O-line on the Chargers. Tyrod, hit or miss. He doesn't throw the ball a lot, but when he does, he's not super accurate. I could easily see the Chiefs coming away with 3-4 sacks, a pick or 2, maybe something like that.
And then another one here is another simple one with the Eagles being so beat up on the offensive line. Los Angeles Rams defense going to have a field day. Going to be a field day. Lock that up if you can.
5 sacks, if not more.
I mean, honestly, that team with no name did have 8. So,
yeah, I was gonna say you guys had
and they were a little bit more healthier at that time.
That's true. That's very true.
They had the Cardinals defense going against the football team here, so this one's kind of interesting. I'm a little interested here because I want to see what this this defense actually does with the Cardinals. I'm not too
Yeah, it's
not too,
interesting. Very
not,
interesting to
not
see how
too
this one
sold
goes.
with that. And then they got the Washington defense versus the Cardinals. Like, I mean, the Washington
I mean,
defense
that could be a nice defensive game there.
with
Two
that.
kind of bad O
I
lines.
mean, you have two lines that are really, really, I think, bad. I mean, the football team's O line did pick it up in the second half last week, so hopefully they can come back with that same oomph and
Yeah, yeah.
kick it. Then we have Tampa Bay's defense versus the Panthers, and this is one of those things we said if the Tampa Bay plays like they did last week, this is easy lock.
Yeah. Because I mean, McCaffrey is a really versatile guy, really dynamic. But I think if you key on them, force Teddy to beat you throwing, I don't love the chances there. I think that while Teddy looked great week 1, I think this Bucs defense is a little bit better than the Raiders he faced last week. So I definitely think that there's a decent shot here that the Bucs really show up. I think that they rally around Brady. He's never started 0-2 in his career. I think they're getting that win. I think their defense is showing up.
And then we get into the sit-ems. This is easy. I've been talking about this all show. The Eagles defense versus the Rams. Sit 'em. I don't think they come. I think they have. I think the Eagles have another bad day. There's way too much injuries going on in that team.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be a
ugly
bad day. It's
It's
gonna be a
ugly.
bad day for them. If it's not, I'll be very surprised, and you guys can throw it in my face next week.
Yeah, especially
Actually-
because the Rams have averaged the 4th most points in the NFL since 2018. That's a big number right there.
We
You
also-
can't go away.
Talked about this too. You got the Denver Broncos versus the Steelers. The Steelers, I don't think the Broncos are beat up, man. The Broncos are another team beat up early. A lot of offensive weapons beat up. Definitely this is Steelers. Steelers defense gonna eat them. And then they got Dallas. It's gonna be an interesting one here. What Dallas can do with these receivers. They got 3 receivers now down in Atlanta that are clicking. They're popping. Big things coming, especially with the new guy stepping up, Gage. Well, not new guy, but young guy stepping up. They got Dallas over. They got the Dallas defense over the Falcons here.
Falcons are just too good of an offense right now. I don't think we've seen enough from the Cowboys to trust them yet. They have the pieces, but as any Cowboys fan would know, or anyone that follows the team, they have a good roster most years, but they just can't get it to come together. They really can't.
That secondary scares me with them,
Yeah, absolutely.
and with the receivers being so hot down in Atlanta.
Yeah, I
Gotta
mean,
go
the
to
Cowboys
Lambeau.
lost their top 2 guys there with Dunbar and Byron, of course. So.
Yes. And then they're sitting the Seahawks versus the Patriots. Seahawks defense here. You were high on this earlier in the show. And this one, they're sitting the New York Giants defense versus Chicago. And I've been high on this. Like I said, I think this is a great call here. You got Allen Robinson's gonna have a field day. Mitch Trubisky.
I mean, the Giants just looked bad, both sides of the ball. I mean, Saquon Barkley got outrushed by Big Ben. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
Saquon didn't
you
do
look at
good
the Bears.
last week. I mean, and that's what I keep talking about is that line just is not there. Like the
It's
line,
just bad.
like they are probably a year or 2 out from having another good line.
Yeah, and I'm not sold on Daniel Jones either at all. And I think while I'm not the biggest Trubisky fan, I think that he looked great in that second half last week. And if he can do that against an Eagles defense, which similar enough to the Giants in terms of personnel, no real stars there, I think that absolutely that's a bad play to
Alright.
touch.
So now we're gonna for you daily guys. JG is gonna break it down for you guys. He's gonna put out his fills on who are your guys for the daily stuff. So go ahead, JG, take it.
So I think the key with daily fantasy football is you want to look at points per game. Now we're only through 1 week, so that's very tough to really bet on. But I think there are a lot of guys whose prices are far too low, and guys that we've talked about today. I mean, you look at Peyton Barber closing in on minimum salary. I think you've got to take him. He's going to have those red zone touches. He's got a good matchup. And you want to go for guys like that. You want to look for good matchups, but you want to look at price. You can't go out there and pick, Julio, Mike Thomas, Devontae Adams, and McCaffrey. You're just not going to be able to fit him in a lineup. So I think the key here is to find value where you can. Barber, fantastic value. Another great value, I think Malcolm Brown. DraftKings has him at 5,700. That's cheaper than a lot of us, the guys who I really don't trust. I mean, guys around the same price. You're looking at like a David Montgomery from Chicago, Mark Ingram. Some of the same price that I do really like is Jonathan Taylor. I think you could definitely fit Jonathan Taylor, Barber, and Brown in a really good lineup. A couple other cheap guys here. Russell Gage we talked about. 4,800. You're looking at similar prices on him, and it's just terrible names. You're looking at like Danny Amendola, Curtis Samuel. I would much rather have Russell Gage over those guys. The man had 23 fantasy points through DraftKings. Robbie Anderson, another cheap guy, only 5,200. You're looking at the same price as a guy like Deshaun Jackson. No question there. I'm taking these cheap wide receivers. Bit of a Dallas Goedert, only 5,000. Similar price guys there. We're looking at a Tyler Higbee, a Hayden Hurst, and Noah Fant. Love Goddard this week. Love him even more at that price. And the little sneaky play here, you got Darius Slayton. I don't love Daniel Jones at all, but this guy's cheap. He put up 31 fantasy points last week through DraftKings, and for only 5,000, pretty much the same price as all these cheap guys. I love that one. And then to round that one out, if you guys happen to be building this, you can fit this in a lineup as well. I like the Rodgers Devontae Adams stack. I mean, Rodgers, the highest scoring quarterback last week. Adams, the highest scoring wide receiver, and they're facing the Lions. That's a bad team, bad defense. I think that Rodgers and Adams pop off again today, though I am a little nervous about Aaron Jones maybe getting some of those touches, but I just think that's an easy way to go here. And if you do that, you can throw in the best defense on the slate, the Niners, who are playing the Jets, and that's a fantastic looking lineup right there. I love that play right there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm high on Jonathan Taylor, so I mean, he's got to be a guy you go get.
Yeah.
If you're saying minimum, if he's under minimum salary, take him.
I think the go-to stack right now is throwing the three running backs I love: Taylor, Barber, and then our guy there, Malcolm Brown. I think that's a really good option. You got probably some high ownership there due to the price, but if it's tough because you're basing week 2 off week 1. That's more than anything. And I think that based off what we saw week 1, this lineup should perform really well. You're looking at least 130, 150 points there. That should cash in almost all formats.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. So then we have injuries. You want to get into the injuries?
Oh, there are so many big injuries. I mean, the biggest among them, of course, you have the loss of Mike Thomas for a couple weeks. I think that we've touched on that with Traquan. We've touched on that with Cook. I think that's one that really affects that offense, but especially if you drafted him. If you drafted Mike Thomas, probably the first 2 rounds, unless someone really fell asleep during draft and you got him in the third. Couldn't imagine that. But I mean, that's a big blow right there. Another big one is not having George Kittle out there. He's a guy who just routinely just gets all the targets, fantastic player, and not being able to have a guy like that just really hurts the offense. That's a tough one.
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, they just paid him too, man. So it's like he just got that big contract. So him not being there, I mean, they sure planned on being there, but I mean, this could be a little blessing in disguise for Mike with not being out there while everybody is still adapting to game speed and stuff like that. Linemen getting used to getting rushed as hard as they're getting rushed now. Yeah. It might actually save him. You know what I mean in the long run.
And the thing with this Michael Thomas injury is it's a high ankle sprain, and those are ones that are dangerous. Those things do not cure easy, especially with a wide receiver where pretty much the bulk of what you're doing is being able to push off that ankle, make those routes, the slants, the Michael Thomas slants. I know he does much more than that, but I mean, a high ankle sprain on a wide receiver like that's no good, man. That's no good right there.
Yeah, I mean, then we get into these matchups. Let's talk about these matchups that are going on today, and then we'll get to the guy. If you guys got any questions on players, we'll get into those here as soon as we're done doing the matchups here. So you got Jacksonville and Tennessee versus each other. I'm Tennessee on this one.
Agreed. I just think it's the Jags.
The Jags are depleted to me. I don't think they really can handle Henry down there. I think Henry's just gonna feast today.
Henry's having a field day. He's due one, especially when you look at that offense. They're losing one AJ Brown this week, which is going to be tough matchups across the board because Corey Davis I don't love as a number one.
Yeah,
don't love a lot of players in that offense, but I think there's going to be run heavy. You're going to see Derrick Henry truck some dudes. I think Jaguars are going to struggle. They're going to be in a tough spot today. I love that matchup there of Derrick Henry for sure, but I think you got to go Titans here. You got to go. If you're doing a pick 'em, you got to take the Titans over the Jags.
And then we got Carolina versus Tampa Bay. That's an
interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, this one could go either way. Like I said, I really feel as if Tampa Bay's defense shows up like they did last week, it easily goes to Tampa Bay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that the guys are really going to rally
And
around Brady.
they
I think
are
Brady
at home. They
better
are.
too.
That's a home game.
Yeah, I think Brady's going to
So
look a lot better this week. I think he's going to play well. I mentioned earlier he's never lost 2 straight games to start the season. And I don't think it starts this year. I think he's going to get this win.
then we got Denver and Pitt. We are both been high on Pitt here, just
Oh yeah.
throughout this. Pitt with so many weapons in Denver's offense being banged up and not playing, this got to go to the Pit. And
Yeah, I mean,
they are at home too. I believe I don't know if they played at home last week. I can't remember, but this may be a home opener for them. And then you have Philly playing at home today, but we're gonna go with the away team here with the Rams in my book.
yeah, I don't love the Rams this year. I'm not super high on Jared Goff overall, but I think, like we mentioned, I mean, no offense to the wonderful people of the Washington football team, but the Eagles blew it last week against them bad. They did not look good on the field. I can't
I mean,
pick
they
the
look good
Eagles.
for the first quarter.
Yeah, right. Yeah, first quarter looked real good, and then that the real team showed there.
Yeah,
The
right.
heart of that Washington football team was incredible, man. I'm
Yeah.
really excited about seeing them this week.
And then you got the Jets versus San Francisco. I'm taking San Francisco in this one.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just don't
That's
think.
that's a snap pick right there.
I
No
mean,
question.
the Jets just. I don't. The Jets have nothing. I
The
don't know.
Jets.
I think they
Ends up,
even. I think their top receivers out. I don't even think Mims is back yet. I don't know if we've seen anything of Mims is back.
I don't know if Mims. That's Denzel Mims.
Yes, Denzel Mims. I don't know if he's back. The rookie, because I know. I think Crowder. I think they called Crowder out late
Yeah,
last night.
Crowder pulled out.
So that's a top receiver out. Their top running back is
Denzel
out.
Mims is on IR actually.
They IR'd him. Oh
Yeah, they
wow,
IR'd him.
I didn't see that
So
one.
that's tough. I mean, I can look at this Jets chart real quick, but that Jets team that already
Well,
struggled.
they
I mean,
have Frank Gore. I think it's Frank Gore starting. Well, Crowder's hurt, so they don't have him at receiver.
yeah, real quick, a bit of a sleeper. I don't love the matchup at all. I don't love that offense, but I think that Josh Adams being added to the off the practice squad. Now, Gore all reliable, of course, but I think Josh Adams far more athletic, and I think he has a decent shot of doing well. But I mean, you look at that offense.
Josh Adams should get a pretty good amount of touches. I mean, Gore is definitely not an every down back anymore. He's
Yeah,
coming
certainly
towards the
not.
end of his career.
I mean, their top wide receivers coming in are Brashad Perriman and Chris Hogan, and that's not pretty. I mean,
Chris
I don't mind
Hogan. I
Perriman,
haven't heard his name. I think he was
right?
wasn't he a Patriot one time?
Yeah, Patriot went over to a former Bill as well. That's just,
Yeah,
man.
it's
If
been a
you got
while.
Chris Hogan as your number 1 or number 2, that's bad news bears
I
right
mean,
there. I mean,
that's like, do the Jets even want to show up today?
I don't think they show up. I mean, if I'm the Jets, I'm just phoning it in. Sam Darnold, I'm very much so not sold on him.
We'll take the bye for this week.
Right. Yeah, that's.
And then we got
it's
Buffalo at Miami. They are playing down in Miami, so I don't know if heat plays a factor with this game because it probably is still a little hot down there.
Yeah.
Weather wasn't. I don't think weather was too good down there lately either. But it being warm, this is one of those things that gets to me too. Is that it being warm? These guys from Buffalo aren't going to be used to this heat. We're still in week 2. Like I said, week 5 is probably going to be where everybody starts really getting in the groove and not cramping up anymore. So this will be interesting.
You got to get back into
So this right here is interesting to me if these guys can stay from cramping and dehydration and stuff like that. But I take Buffalo here. I take Buffalo here. This is another one. I go Indiana instantly with this. I just don't think Minnesota has a team that's going to be able to handle Hines and Taylor. Like I really
I think
don't.
it's the Vikings defense that's a problem there. Their offense, I'm not super sold on. Not a big Kirk guy. I think they do have pieces around it though. We need to see more.
Definitely. They definitely have the pieces there. But I mean, losing Diggs, they don't have a top receiver. They have a great running back, but I mean, the running back's going to only take you so far.
Dalvin didn't look great last week either. I mean, he had a decent showing, but it wasn't anything crazy. So if you're not having a big game from Cook, I mean, Thielen looked great. Thielen had over 30 fantasy points on DraftKings. That's a big game for him, but I just not sold on the Vikings defense, and I cannot trust a bad defense. I can never trust.
Does Thielen though? I mean, does he stay consistent?
Yeah, that's the thing.
30 points is high. That's a high end day. That's just a great day as a receiver.
And that was only off. That was only off 8 targets, mind you. Only 8 targets there.
Only
So.
that's a lot of targets for a receiver.
Yeah, but when you think about the production he had, having 110 and 2 touchdowns off 8 targets, I mean, that's looking like if he drops a couple of those, if they go to Dalvin Cook a little bit more in the red zone, BC Johnson and Justin Jefferson maybe step up a little bit. Rudolph's always a threat there, so it's
Then you
tough to know.
have then we get into Green Bay and Detroit. This one is one of those things. The running game pounds Green Bay into the ground. That we know Green Bay's they're known to give up a lot of runs. Um, but like this one is a division game. We all know how division games get. They don't matter how good the team is. And we are going to. I'm in the middle of this one. I'm not too sure which way this goes. I mean, I think Green Bay's offense is better than Detroit's defense by far. But then
I think that's the key here for sure.
and so I think right now I think AP has a big day, but I think Green Bay wins this game because they're playing at home too. So
yeah, I think it's just going to be a case where the Green Bay offense is just so good. I mean, that it's going to be tough to slow down Rodgers when you don't have a great pass rush. Not sold on the Lions defense at all. Matt Patricia's just struggled there. I think the offense isn't looking good without Galladay. Really struggled to get going last week too. So I got to go Packers here.
and then
We got this question for Montgomery or Paris Campbell. I think we got to go Paris Campbell for full PPR. The guy had 9 targets, 6 catches. I don't think David Montgomery's got the best matchup. I don't see him getting that many targets. So from a PPR standpoint, I think you've got to go Paris Campbell there, gentlemen.
And then we go into Atlanta and Dallas, and I'm pretty much sold here that Atlanta gets their first win here. Dallas goes to 0-2.
Yeah, I agree.
Just with the receivers that Atlanta has, they now have 3 receivers they can go to, which definitely going to make it hard for Dallas to cover. Dallas is hurt at linebacker. I think Vander Esch is out now. I believe I just seen that. Didn't know that he was out for the season. I thought he was just hurt.
Yeah, broken collarbone. That's no bueno for a linebacker.
I thought it was early enough that he could come back. It's usually an 8-week heal type of deal.
Yeah, I think there's a chance he comes back, but yeah, that's a big blow. I mean, he is the nerve center for that defense. He is the
heart and soul. It's gonna put a lot of playtime, a lot more on Smith out there, Jalen Smith at linebacker.
Yeah, a ton of pressure, because now he's likely got the green dot too, and that's
he's
no
calling
easy
the plays,
task.
man. Yeah. These are all 1 o'clock games, just so you guys know too. Then we hop into the New York Giants and the Bears. The Bears go to 2-0 here. This is an easy call for me. The Giants just looked so bad last week on both sides of the ball.
So bad. I mean, when your best player is Saquon and he couldn't get going, that's a major problem.
And this is where I think Allen Robinson just has a day, man. I think Allen Robinson is gonna go off. If he doesn't go off, I'll be surprised a lot.
Yeah, agreed.
And then we get into the 4 o'clock game, starting with Arizona and Washington. This one is one of those things. I think if Washington contains Kyler, I think Washington wins it. I think they can win this if they contain them, because just the house they have a crazy defense, and their defense. I didn't realize how crazy it was until watching. Not just because I'm a fan, but the rotation they had. I didn't realize how crazy they were going to play it. I mean, they got Sweat rotating, they got Jonathan Allen rotating, and then you got Payne in the middle, you got Matt Ioannidis in the middle, and then on the other side you got Kerrigan over here rotating. Like it's wild. And then
that's a very deep defensive front. I think that they have so many talented pass rushers that I'd be very surprised to see them not at least get half dozen sacks here today. I do think that I don't know if I would bet on either side of this game, because I think it will be close. But I do think that there's a chance that Washington shocks people, goes 2-0, and the Cardinals struggle a little bit today. Because, I mean, a big factor is Kenyon Drake. I don't think Kenyon Drake's looked great this year, and I don't think there's going to be a good matchup for him. That D-line is going to smother Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, I mean, this to me is just one of those things. Like I said, I think the big factor is if they can control Kyler. If they can control Kyler, I think they can win the game. If they can't keep him from running all over the place, then it might be a long day for Washington.
Oh, definitely.
And then we get the Kansas City Chargers. I think Kansas City goes 2-0 here. versus the
Yeah.
Chargers, just because their defense looked like they were mid-season form already, coming out the gate. That's
Yeah.
also that's going to be a 425 game. And then we get to Baltimore and Houston, and this is Baltimore. Baltimore's defense is it's nasty. They have way too much over there. I'm like cornerback wise, I love them. I love what they have in their secondary.
Plus, I think on defense, I don't think the Texans can slow down this offense. I mean,
this offense is
very,
gonna be
very
crazy.
different offenses, but similar in the Chiefs here. I think you're going to see the Ravens do whatever they want. I don't think the Texans have the pieces anymore. A lot of those guys are getting older. A lot of those guys have been traded away or moved on from. And I think that when you look at that offense, it doesn't have enough. I mean, I like Fuller, big Fuller fan. I don't see him as a legit number one. I think he's a much better number two target. Don't love the tight ends there. Akins is okay, and then David Johnson. What are you going to get with him?
Yeah, well, they actually had him as a stardom today.
Yeah, I think that's.
But I was just like, yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah, like I don't trust that at all. I think David Johnson's just too erratic.
Then we get into the next two. This is a Sunday night game here. This is a big Sunday night game. You got a Super Bowl rematch with the Patriots in Seattle, both 1-0. Where do you see this one going? I'm gonna let you do this one just because you are a Patriots guy and you had the 4-1-1 on these guys.
Yeah, I feel that. So I think it's gonna be a good game. I think it should be relatively close. While the Patriots defense looked good last week, it was definitely susceptible. Of course, you're looking at Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think Russell Wilson, easily top 3 quarterback in the league. Depending on who you're asking, you could even get him up there in top 2 between him and Mahomes. I think Russell Wilson's going to look fantastic. I think that offense is going to be tough to stop with Metcalf, with Lockett, with your guy, with Chris Carson there. I think that the Pats are going to struggle to stop them. I think that this could be close, but unfortunately, I think I got to go with the Seahawks here. I don't think I've seen enough out of the Patriots. I think that if the Seahawks defense plays relatively well, I think Cam gets slowed down. If you make Cam beat you throwing, I think you can stop him.
Yo, Carmen II, thank you for the raid, my guy. So I agree here. I like this is gonna be big. Like I think there's gonna be a quarterback throw out here. I think there's gonna be a shootout.
It's gonna be a really high scoring game.
I mean, when you look at it, you are getting a way better quarterback. I'm a big Russell Wilson guy. I'm a big Cam guy though too. I've always liked Cam because Cam's just he's always about the fans and all that stuff and always doing
so unpredictable is the thing is you don't know what you're getting, but when Cam is on point like we saw last week, he is so dangerous. He can.
But I also think it's because Cam hasn't been healthy in quite a few years either. He's been banged up.
He got to sit
and
for
now
most of the years.
And now he's 100. He's 100% refreshed. I really think this is going to be a game. Going to go back and forth.
I love that offense. The stuff that McDaniels drew up for Cam was fantastic. I mean, Cam looked like MVP Cam running the RPOs.
It's going to be.
Blasts. He looked fantastic.
It's going to be one of those things. What defense can show up? Because like you said, I mean, you're not 100% sold, and plus you have a way better quarterback going against your defense this week. And Seattle's defense is rocky in its own way.
Yeah, see, I love the Patriots secondary, but I think the biggest thing with the Patriots is they don't have Patrick Chung. He opted out for the year, and Dante Hightower opted out for the year. The Patriots don't really have a great pass rush. You're looking at
two big guys
like Dietrich Wise, who's never proven himself. Chase Winovich in his second year, who I love Winovich, but he's not unstoppable force. This team doesn't have really pass rushers. I do think that they have a chance to stop in the secondary, but I think Chris Carson should have a decent day, and I just don't think that we have the right pieces to stop this offense. I think it's going to be the Hawks here.
Yeah, so he's going with the Hawks.
It hurts, but I've seen more of the Seahawks.
Yeah, I mean, you do get that quarterback factor, and Russ is no shabby guy. So
absolutely,
he's 10 times the quarterback that Fitzpatrick is. So Then we get into New Orleans and the Raiders here. This one to me is I'm going New Orleans here, even though they're playing Monday night and they are playing in Las Vegas. I just think that they have a couple players that are just going to be more. I mean, and do we really see what the Raiders can cook up and put together here?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing here is that the Raiders, they have some good pieces. I love Jacobs. I think Ruggs has a bright future. I love Waller. Hunter Renfro is pretty serviceable there, but I just think this is a case of the Saints are just so stacked, even without Michael Thomas. I think that offense is really going to get cooking. That defense looked pretty good last week. I mean, if they can shut down a guy like Brady, I don't think Derek Carr is much of a question, honestly. I'm not the biggest Derek Carr guy. I like him. Definitely a startable player, but I think this is definitely going to be the Saints here.
I mean, so then when you get into it, what is your overall take of Ruggs? I mean, do you think he sees more touches this week or than he did last week, or what's
So
your
I think
thoughts
the
there?
problem with Ruggs is we don't know what's up with that injury. I don't remember the exact injury, but I know he's struggling with something right now. I think it was a knee situation, and that always worries me with a wide receiver. It looks like he did not practice for the last day here for Thursday's injury report here. So it was an injured ankle. Okay, so if he plays, I like him. I think he's got a really bright future. He's really dynamic guy. He can do a lot in an offense. I think that if Ruggs is healthy, he's going to play well. We saw some flashes of it before the injury, and this is a guy who's going to have a bright future. I love a lot of these young wide receivers. Look at Justin Jefferson, guy like Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy. I love some of these young rookies right now.
And getting into so, what do you see the Raiders doing this week? See them going into like a run heavy offense with the uncertainty of Ruggs, or where do you
So
see them
I think
going?
ideally the Raiders are going to be in the best spot if they play off the running game. I think most teams are that way though, because you get that play action going. Josh Jacobs, a fantastic, fantastic player. I really love Josh Jacobs. I think that the one thing with Jacobs, I'd like to see him get a little bit more involved with the pass game. Hasn't done a lot of that, but I think that he's shown that he can be the lead back. He can dominate a game when he gets the touches, when he gets the opportunities. And I think that if the Raiders can stick with consistency, which is a big thing, because we've seen from Derek Carr, he can play really well in some games. I mean, a couple of years ago, he was a top 10
Yeah,
quarterback.
easy when they went to the playoffs or they just
Yeah,
missed
yeah.
the playoffs. I think it was. They
So
just missed it.
I think a big problem for the Raiders is their defense isn't great. Um, they could really use a dynamic pass rusher. Imagine if they had one of those. Traded him to the Bears.
Khalil Mack.
So
Still
yeah, I mean that's just I am not a
blown
big
away.
fan of.
I'm still.
I don't like Gruden at all.
I
To be honest,
I like him. I like him,
I
but
think he's just out of touch right now. He doesn't know what this league's about anymore. He hasn't been in it in
yeah,
10 years.
I think that's a big thing. I mean, like I don't know how you let go of Khalil Mack. I really don't. Like unless there was some internal stuff that none of us know about.
Yeah,
That guy is
even
way too much.
talent. The talent you can't give up that kind of talent. That's
Yeah,
tough.
those guys are century guys. You know what I mean? You don't see them like that often.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think we're both in agreement here. This is going to be New Orleans.
Oh, definitely. I think that the way New Orleans looked last week on both sides of the ball, Raiders did look good, but mind you, that was against the Panthers. So, that's a struggling team in itself. But the Panthers roasted the Raiders. So I don't see Drew Brees getting slowed down if Teddy Bridgewater wasn't. So,
Yeah. So guys in chat, if you guys have any questions on who to start, who to sit, you guys want to get them in the chat, we'll try to answer them. But for this show, we're gonna stop here, but we are gonna stay on for a second here. Maybe check out some injuries and whatnot. But guys, we'll be back Tuesday, I believe JG's calling it. We are gonna be back on Tuesday night, 7 p.m.
yeah, I like Tuesday. That way we can get into some waiver action. I think the waiver wire is something that's really underutilized in fantasy leagues. I think that a lot of people sleep on the sleepers that you
Take
can
the
get in
Bears.
free agency.
That's
Yeah,
a given.
yeah.
You take the Bears 100%.
I just don't like the Giants.
The
offense right
Giants'
now.
offense is too shaky for.
And their defense is just awful.
Yeah, so
Awful.
guys, Tuesday night we'll be back with fantasy. We're going to be back with the Get Sticky Fantasy Recap. That'll be 7 p.m. Eastern time. We'll talk about Monday Night Football. We'll be going into a little bit of the waiver wire injuries that may have happened. Little game recap. We'll also touch on some Madden stuff because we'll have Team of the Week guys coming. And then we'll also touch on Thursday night's football game. That way you guys get a little insight on that if you guys have guys that play there. But for today's show,
I think it's an ugly one too. I believe that's Dolphins Jags. I want to say not pretty.
but for today's show, guys, we are out. We love you guys. Peace.